So here we go, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Meet the Oppo, the series where I get the lowdown on Town's next opponent, which is Forest Green Rovers at Portman Road, bottom of League One. Forest Green Rovers. I'm joined by Josh, the man who covers all things Forest Green. Thanks for joining me, my friend. How's things?
Not too bad, thank you. Yourself, Ross?
Yeah, doing really well, my friend. It's been an interesting few weeks at Town. I'm sure it's been a very interesting few weeks at Forest Green, maybe a few months. Duncan Ferguson, then Josh, the new manager at Forest Green. He's been in charge the last 4 games. Let's just quickly talk about that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when he first came into the club. It was a name from the Premier League that you think he was almost tipped to get the Everton job. Obviously, the obvious links for a number of years, but to be able to attract someone like Duncan Ferguson, it's a first post in full-time management for him, but he'll certainly be excited for the opportunity. And like you said, it's a project here at Forest Green that he's probably taken on. So interesting way to be able to firstly get into management and secondly join a relegation scrap.
Indeed, yeah. Bottom of the league. 4 games so far for Duncan. 3 defeats, 1 draw. You know, a late equaliser for Morecambe a few weeks back, which would have been a great start for him to get a big win against a relegation rival. How has the first 4 games under Duncan Ferguson sort of shown? You know, I'm sure fans are excited because it's a Premier League icon in charge, but he needs to get this team out of the bottom 4.
Yeah, I think the average mood is pretty positive. The atmosphere is pretty good around the club, despite being bottom of the table. I think there's just a bit of fanfare around him still, and a bit of excitement to be able to get someone like Duncan Ferguson involved, playing a system which is more solid, is what you'd call it, solid 4-3-3, 4-5-1 when they don't have the ball. So you have got more of a defensive structure. There's no doubt about it, and just the intensity. A couple of lads who you speak to, they say that they've stepped up intensity. They've cut out a Monday morning, so they train on a Monday now rather than having 2 days off. So just trying to implement so many ideas, but doing it in more of a simple way. It's more about getting your structure right and then being able to counter attack as well. It's 1 point is not a brilliant number to get from the first 4 games, but they've had late goals at Morecambe, Shrewsbury. But it's been something of the season so far. It's difficult to shake that off.
Indeed. So it's been changed on the touchline, but it's been changed on the pitch as well, because a lot of players have gone. A big name is, of course, Conor Wickham, who's got connections to Town, of course, came through the youth academy and, scored a few goals as a youngster and, of course, was sold for a lot of millions, and he's gone into the Premier League. He signed for you guys in the summer on a short-term contract, scored a few goals, 9 in total. He's now joined Cardiff after his contract expired. That's a big loss, of course, for Forest Green, the man who's been scoring the goals.
Yeah, I think so. And they've taken a risk on the players that they have now got in the final third, obviously with Jamil Matt and Matty Stevens also going out on loan. But Conor Wickham, he certainly divided opinion. His work rate was a little bit questioned at times, understandably so by some of the fan base. I think just he doesn't necessarily add that intensity in the final third of the pitch. If you want to be a pressing team, I don't think Conor Wickham necessarily helps you, but you can't knock the number of goals that he scored for Forest Green if they didn't have the goals, and then they would be nowhere near in touch, would they? So you've got to be appreciative of the efforts that he put in. Maybe didn't really suit he wants to go into the Championship, he wants to excel, and I think when it got to January, you could kind of feel that it was going to be a parting of ways, but you've got to be thankful for what Conor's done in the first half of the season. He scored goals, and he was a bit of experience that some of the lads might have been able to rub off on and hopefully use it for the second half of the season as well, despite being gone.
Yeah, indeed. And as you mentioned, there's a few players have left as well. Some big names. Jamel Matt, club captain last season, was part of the team that got promoted to League One. Josh March as well, another player who scored a lot of goals this year. He's gone to League Two as well with Stevenage. They're fighting for promotion there. But let's talk about the current players then more, because that's the big talking point going into this game. Let's bring up the last 11, which was a 1-0 defeat at home to Charlton. Let's talk about the players right there. Is that likely to be the sort of similar lineup, do you reckon, against Town? And name any players you want to sort of talk about.
I do think it'd be a very similar lineup. Only one change was made on Tuesday night. Stevenson came in. But other than that, it's going to be a very similar lineup. I think Cooper and Casey are very solid at centre-back, and McGeough did hobble off towards the second half, but I don't think there'll be too many issues getting him back. Jordan Garrick also went off with concussion, but it's unlikely for him to be ruled out. But Garrick's been very good since he's come in, to be honest. He's added some intensity on the wing, and he really offers that little bit of X factor that you need. He's curled an absolute beauty at Shrewsbury, and that certainly got the fans really happy in Duncan Ferguson's first game. And Bakayoko the same. He's a hard worker. He does everything you need from the side. Just lacking that final third. Just needs a goal to really get himself off the mark. And there's just not many games left in the season, unfortunately, to be able to really get that vein of form going. Once one comes, maybe you might see a couple of runs together, but at the same time, they need points, and Ipswich on the road is not going to be an easy task.
No, Forest Green's first ever visit to Portman Road is going to be an interesting encounter, because Town looking to get back to winning ways after the bad run of form in the last 2 months. Let's talk about Forest Green as a side under Duncan Ferguson. Is there much change to the style of play? Duncan Ferguson, what sort of football is he bringing?
He's certainly using Bakayoko to his advantage in terms of looking to play into the big man. He's using that quite a lot, and then the two wingers, they're playing quite narrow, but then when they do have the ball, try and get wide. But it's a standard 4-3-3 pretty much, the way that they like to play. Pert Harris being the most advanced of the three in midfield, but it's more a defensive structure. For example, we went to Morecambe. I think we surrendered much of the possession against a side who don't really like having the ball themselves, so they forced Morecambe to try and play and then try and hit them on the counter attack. So that's probably going to be the same game plan I'd expect when going to Ipswich. A much better side in terms of somebody who wants to keep the ball and play with a lot more intensity. But I do think that the side that will go out will look to play on the counter. The structure has to be a strong enough structure to be able to hold out, and that not conceding the first 15 minutes of the game is going to be so important as well.
Yeah, I was quickly actually looking at goals conceded. Only 27, which isn't too bad for a team bottom of the table. Only scored 20 goals, of course. 2 points for the last 11 games. But Forest Green don't concede many goals despite being bottom of the league.
Yeah, at the same time, I think I saw a stat not so long ago that if games finished at half time, I think we'd have 31 points rather than the current number that we're on already. So another stat being 13 goals in the final 15 minutes of games, which is another pretty damning stat. It's a question: is it fitness? Is it intensity? Is it experience in the group? I'm not too sure. Games just haven't really gone Forest Green's way. There's been so many times that whether it be Birchall or Ferguson, they'll come out of the game and they'll say, "Oh, we played well today, but it just didn't go our way in the end. And what have we got to do to get a result?" But we're so many games into the season that at some point things have got to change, and you've now got to put together a serious run of playoff form almost to be able to get out of the mess that they're currently in.
Indeed, and the last time Town sort of had a frustrating result off back of like a midweek game or Saturday game, they then went on to play against a relegation team and won 4-0. And how are you feeling going into this one? Town are going to be sort of a wounded animal at the moment, because they had a terrible game against Bristol Rovers on Tuesday night, got a draw against Sheffield Wednesday, came from behind 2-2, but they're going to go into this game. It's a must win. There's no ifs, buts or maybes now. They need to beat Forest Green. But so how are you feeling, knowing it's going to be a big task for Forest Green, coming down to Portman Road, going to be a big crowd and everything, first ever trip there? How are you feeling?
A little bit of optimism, but a lot of pessimism at the same time. I think you've got to be realistic about the fact that Ipswich will understandably be on top in the game. They'll probably have 70% possession of the game, and Forest Green will have to be camped in and be very, very strong at times. And at the same time, you've got to be able to weather the storm. If they get through, they might have to hit the crossbar, hit the bar a couple of times. And then suddenly you got to say, oh, well, we defended quite well, but to come out of the game with any sort of result would be an absolutely brilliant result. Got to be realistic at these sorts of times. Play against Charlton on Tuesday, another very decent side at playing football on the deck. So, and probably deserve to get something from the game. So there's parts of the match that you think they could get something from the game, but there's no doubt that Ipswich are going to be a side who are going to be forcing things on the front foot. It's going to be interesting to see how Duncan Ferguson can adapt to that sort of challenge.
Yeah, and of course, last time we met was early in the season, our first away game of the season. I think it was your first home game of the season, and it was a 2-1 win. I think Town just about beat Forest Green. Of course, it was a different team, a different manager. But final thoughts, Josh, on the game. I want to quickly mention actually Charlie Savage because he's got a connection with Kieran McKenna because McKenna was a coach at Man United. And will he feature, do you reckon, at some stage in this game?
Yeah, he made his debut against Charlton on Tuesday night, and we spoke to him after the game, and he said he actually had a work experience loan down at Ipswich not too long ago. So he knows Kieran McKenna well through the Manchester United setup, and he's quite excited to get back down there. Weirdly, the two work experience loans that he has done at Forest Green and Ipswich, so he knows a lot of the lads on both sides, and had a brilliant impact on Tuesday. Came on, dictated play. I thought it was brilliant actually to be able to come on, such a young lad, make his debut. His dad, Robbie Savage, in the stands as well. So that was quite a lot of pressure on young shoulders, but he took it. He took his chance. And to be honest, I do think he'll get the nod on Saturday. There won't be too many changes in the squad, but Charlie Savage will certainly be pushing for one now that he's in the squad. He was initially left out because you can only have 5 loans in a matchday squad, and he happened to be number 6. The way that he's come in, but Tyler Oniango's got quite a bad quad strain, so it looks like Charlie Savage is going to get the nod in terms of the matchday squad, and he's certainly had an impact enough to be able to maybe come into the squad as well, the first 11.
Okay, we shall wait and see then, my friend. Well, Josh, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Great to have you on. Any other business, any other notes you want to mention? Anything nuggets that Town fans should know about?
Charlton was apparently the best performance, so if that's anything to go by, then it can only get better in terms of going on Saturday. But 11 games without a win for Forest Green, it's not good pedigree for Forest Green to come into this. So it's going to be interesting. It's certainly a ground that I'm excited to go to. I've been once as a fan, but never on the media side of things. So it's exciting to see, and it's a long old trip as well. I've got to make the most of it.
Definitely, my friend. And yeah, that record is not good for Town fans because when they see that record, they go, here comes a team with a bad record, and here comes Town. Here you go, 3 points. But hopefully that won't be the case. But we shall wait and see. If you are going to the game, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy. If you're not, follow the game with us, and make sure to follow all the content that Josh does with Forest Green Rovers as well, if you want to get some insight on that sort of thing. But Josh, thanks for joining me. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye for now.